Hi, I'm Gabi, and welcome to Gabbing with Gabi. In this series, we sit down with fellow artists who brought their knowledge and talent to the world via the internet. It's a chance for them to set aside their work and to tell us more about their story. And our guest today is Paul. Paul, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Gabi, and hi the internet. My name's Paul Ranson of Paul Ranson Art. I guess you would probably call me the new old guy of Bob Ross. I've been doing it for a while now. So, yeah, that's me. And I've been teaching full-time for over 20 years now.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yes.
And can you tell us where you're from?
Yeah, I'm in the UK. I'm in West Sussex. And if I throw a stone out that window, I might be able to hit the sea. So it's pretty close to the coast.
Yeah. Does that keep it pretty warm there then?
The south of England is definitely the warmer part of the British Isles. The further north you go, the colder it gets and the more rain it gets. So down here, they call it the Riviera of the UK. It doesn't always feel like the Riviera, but it's the south coast. It's lovely. It's very nice.
Awesome. That's great. So you do art, you paint?
Yes. I can't remember a time when I wasn't painting and drawing. Not full time for a living, but certainly since my youngest days, I can always remember crayons, pencils, paintbrushes, or just like were there, and I used to love them. They're brilliant, and I really enjoyed it. But not so much at school. The school I went to wasn't really focused on art. It was focused more on academics. So I wasn't a very good fit at school.
Yeah, and you oil paint, I assume?
I oil paint mainly for my YouTube channel. Bob Ross is kind of the main thrust of what I do, but I do include some of my own stuff, and maybe later on down the line I might bring some of my acrylic work into the fore as well. But yeah, I play with pastels, I play with pencils, charcoal. I like everything, but predominantly oils for teaching.
Okay. And what is your preferred subject matter? Mostly landscapes?
Oh, I'm a seascape nut. In fact, over my shoulder is a seascape I've been working on today. I could sit and watch the sea and paint the sea every day of the week, and I'd be a happy chappy. I love wildlife. I'm pretty much into most everything. I like portrait, but it doesn't like me. So I need to have some lessons. But when I sit down and concentrate, I can do a reasonable job in portraits.
Wow, that's awesome. You're braver than me. I won't take it on. No way. Where do you draw? I mean, you kind of talked about the sea, but where do you draw inspiration from?
Oh gosh. Well, I look out the window into the garden, and there's a world of inspiration sitting out there. I'm never not able to find a subject to paint. I mean, I just look at the desk in front of me. It's strewn with all the art stuff that I might use, and I would just pick something up and draw it. Mm-hmm. So I'm never stuck. But I love watching other artists paint. I love watching how they analyze what they're painting and how they go about it if they share the process. And that inspires me, other artists. Because I look at what they do and think, I could do that. I could do that. I could do that as well.
Yeah.
So that's my inspiration.
Seeing their wheels turn gets your wheels turning.
Oh, big time. Yeah, big time. I've been watching another artist. Can I mention his name?
You go ahead.
It's Jan Hendrik. He's a Dutch artist. He's a big sky and seascape specialist. Jan Hendrik's been painting since like the middle of last century. He always jokes, and I can sit there and I just watch him paint, and my mouth is open, and I just can't believe how good he is. And I feel the same when I'm watching people like Cesar Santos. That's another person. Chuck Black. I love watching him. I just watch these guys paint. I think so. Well, I've got a lot to do, but I'm catching them up.
Absolutely. I'm going to have to get some of their names. I've never heard of that guy that you talked about before, but I'm always looking to see what other people are doing.
Oh, sure. Yeah. If you want, I mean, I can always drop you a list of people that I'm inspired by.
Yeah.
And then you can catch up with them. And if they're interested, you never know. You might be able to interview them. Who knows? But, yeah, there's some really fantastic. And the fact that they would share what they do on YouTube, I mean, my hat comes off to them.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to do my little bit.
I think for a long time, artists were sort of gatekeepers, and I think that's changing a lot, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of, my experience of professional artists is that they kind of have this big secret going on that they won't share it with anybody because it took them 20 years to figure out how to put this dab of paint on it. And I think so, a secret not shared is worthless. That's a little one of my own sayings. A secret that you don't share is worth nothing, because it doesn't mean anything to anybody. You keep it to yourself, it's worthless. So I give everything away, and then it's worth something maybe. So that's me.
Yeah, that's really a good way to look at it. So how long have you been painting with oils?
With oils since I was probably about 8 or 9.
Oh, well.
I first saw, well, maybe even a little younger. We used to have things called paint by numbers, and I remember being at home. I either had laryngitis, tonsillitis, I had something wrong, and my mum bought me a little paint by numbers, and they are 2 little elves and some little pots of paint, and it was like an enamel paint, like an oil paint, and I sat there and painted them all in, and then I started adding to it, and I started kind of making them more, so it went from being very basic to looking more complicated, and that was my first experience of using an oil paint.
Wow.
So yeah, quite a few years ago now, about 10, 15 years ago. I told you my humor's going to get me in trouble today.
That's okay. What do you think makes you unique as an artist?
Oh gosh, nothing. I'm walking a path that has been trodden by so many people that to be totally unique, I don't think. I think it's kind of hard to be unique anymore unless you really do. And this is why I see some of the art that's, you can cut this bit if you don't want to leave it in, but I see some people's art, and I think so. Just exactly what are you trying to do with that? If you're trying to be original, then you've missed, because as far as I'm concerned, that's just a bit of an insult, really. Some modern art I just think is just so far off the mark, and yet there are some pieces of modern art that I don't understand, but there's something about it I can't stop looking at. Now that's clever, but some of it is just not me.
Yeah, art is in the eye of the beholder.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, so this next question I have for you is sort of a 3-parter. The first part of it is, who is your favorite living artist?
Gosh, my favorite living artist. I have to think about that one. Yeah, I can't think. I can see his face in my head, and I just can't remember his name. He's in New Zealand. Oh gosh, I'd have to look his name up. I watch his stuff a lot, and I can't think of his name. It's completely evaporated out of my head. Okay, we might have to come back to that one.
Awesome. How about your favorite deceased artist?
Bob Ross, of course, the great man. Bob is my number one, simply because he was just such a great character. So yeah, I think I'd have to say Bob.
Yeah. And do you have a favorite historical artist?
Historical artist, Leonardo da Vinci. Da Vinci just did something with art. He just took it to a whole new level, and his figure work is just exquisite. But it wasn't only just painting; his sculpting. I mean, he was just so clever. So Da Vinci would be, for me, my number one. Yes.
I'm always so amazed at people like Da Vinci, Michelangelo, and stuff, who not only did they paint, I mean, because I've seen some of their work in person, it's just jaw-dropping. But to think that they had to go out and get the stuff to make the paint, when oil paint was a new thing, and it's just
they'd sit there and make it and grind it up and use saliva, they use egg, and turpentine, and then climb up the scaffolding and try and paint it. I mean, that takes some doing. So we got it easy by comparison, but
for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't imagine laying on my back for hours painting the Sistine Chapel. I just can't imagine.
And trying to imagine what it looks like when you're like 2 foot from it. It's what it's going to look like from 30 feet. Because you can't just stand back quickly. You've got to clamber down and have a look at it, and then clamber back up and do it again. And that takes some skill. That takes some real skill.
Yeah, absolutely. My next question: do you have a trick or two that you have sort of come up with on your own since you started painting?
A trick or two. What do you mean, something unique that I do that nobody else does?
Or something that you had to figure out sort of for yourself?
Yeah, paint until you break it. That's kind of my motto. Don't be afraid to experiment and to really push the boundaries of what you're doing, even if it breaks the painting. It's only a piece of canvas or a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Don't be shy of having a go, because until you do kind of push that boundary and really try and do something just extra special, it'll just be mundane. So that would be my trick. If there is a trick at all, don't be afraid to break your work, and don't get too sentimental about it. Just do it again, do it again and then again.
Yeah.
Simple as. That's my trick or top tip, I guess.
Yeah. And if it all falls apart, you can just scrape it off and start again.
Do it again. It's nothing. It's just, it's no time spent painting is wasted as long as you're pushing the boundaries of what you're doing. I talk to people about practicing, and I talk about how much practice they put in, and they say, oh, I spent 4 or 5 hours practicing this. I said, but when you say practice, do you mean you were actually trying to improve, or were you just going through the same steps again? A bit like trying to tie your shoelace and it doesn't work. Just because you spent 4 hours getting it wrong doesn't mean to say you achieved anything or your practice was valuable. So I always encourage people, when you practice, there is good practice, which means you're getting somewhere, and there's just practice for the sake of it. So that's again just kind of the way I look at stuff, really. So I try and make every minute on canvas try and make it worth something, make it valuable.
Yeah, that's great insight. Absolutely. Let's see. Do you have any special training or education in art?
Zip. Absolutely none. Apart from the Bob Ross teacher training course, I was to say my education was very much academic and not the arts. So I was steered more to do that. And that wasn't anybody else's choice. That was my choice. But kind of in the back of my head, I was thinking I really want to be doing something either with my hands or painting or drawing. But at the time, I thought using this was the way forward for me. But later on in life, I realized about the age of 40 that I'd missed my turning. So I had to turn around and come back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, sometimes it just wasn't that time to take that turn,
That's right. That's just life. That's how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have other hobbies outside of painting?
I'm a DIY person. I love working on kind of woodwork. I did mechanics. I worked in engineering for a while. Anything with my hands. I love sculpting. I love clay. Anything like that. And I kind of get taking things to pieces, fixing them, putting them back together again. My other half, she said, is there nothing you can't fix? Is there nothing you haven't? I said, no, not really. I can fiddle, play, bend, break, and repair everything if I can. So yeah, DIY is definitely me.
Yeah. Well, and it's cheaper that way too.
I guess it's because I've seen some over the years. I've worked in different industries. I've worked in the building industry. I have worked in mechanics and engineering, and I've seen some real howlers. I've seen some real shady work, and I'm thinking, if he can do it or she can do it, I can do it. I think I worried my dad when I said that one day, because he was a surgeon. I could do that, Dad. No, you can't.
And then you never followed in his footsteps. It was probably a good call.
I think that was where the academic side of me was sort of like, I must be able to do what my dad did. My dad had a dogged determination. He was a driven person. I look up to my dad and think, my goodness, if I had 1/10 of his determination, I would be made. But I didn't have the academic side. I'm not an academic. I'm a visual learner. And whereas my dad could do, in my eyes, amazing things with reconstructive surgery on somebody, I look at saying I could paint that instead. So both kind of an art, but in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question was going to be, what do you do for work? You said you worked in some engineering stuff, and anything else of note?
Yeah, I kind of jumped around when I first left school. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to work for myself. That was number one. I didn't like working for other people. So I did do some different jobs. I worked different places and worked on, what did I do? I worked in engineering. I worked on cars, automobiles, and that was kind of fun. Then I kind of worked on sort of different sort of bigger projects, like working for a plant hire company, like a heavy haulage company where they actually hire out machines. I did that for a while, but none of these jobs really kind of satisfied. They weren't creative enough. So at the age of 40, it was either go and buy a sports car and grow a ponytail, or change my midlife crisis into something more important. So I switched and I became. We went towards art, but the whole art thing was a complete serendipity. It was just a case of pure luck. Don't know how it all happened, but it kind of did. So that's how that changed.
Yeah. That's so awesome. So do you teach classes now?
Sure. I teach more online.
Yeah.
I don't teach in person.
Yeah.
But for over 20 years, it was always in-person classes. And that was village halls, groups 16, 20, art societies would want us along for demonstrations. And so, yes, we're doing a lot of in-person stuff on a full-time basis. So we were always somewhere different teaching. So it was good fun.
Yeah.
And you learn to paint sort of, sometimes you just have to paint on the spur of the moment. You know, something would be organized, maybe it wouldn't kind of work out, and someone would say, do you think you can step in? And you just, okay. So you just go and do it.
You just wing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been painting in crazy situations, and it's always been good fun.
Yeah. And it's never the same thing twice.
No, I think painting live in a studio for TV is fun to do, but the situation would be that it was a TV shopping channel, and they gave me a presenter to teach. They just said, we'd like you to teach this person who's got absolutely no knowledge of anything to paint something in half an hour. Could you do it? And I said, of course, no problem. And the presenter's face, the blood drained, because I think he rather thought to himself, he's never going to say yes. And of course I said, sure, I can teach him. And we had a great time. It was good fun. And yeah, I've done that gig a few times now. So that was fun. That was fun to do.
That sounds fun.
Yes, so I'm talking a lot.
That's okay. The big picture or the big dream of doing online content, what is that, and where do you think it's going to go?
COVID changed everything for a lot of people. It completely stopped our classes in its tracks in Europe and in the UK. Everything stopped and the venues were shut down. So you find yourself in a kind of a weird position of thinking, well, now what do I do? How do I get what I do out there? And the obvious thing was online. I just didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know how to record anything or film it, or I mean, and there's a steep learning curve. I didn't even have a proper computer at the time, really. I only had an old laptop. So the first thing I had to do is to actually build a computer, which is what I'm still using that same computer. It's still running, and learn out how to do YouTube. And yeah, it's going okay. It's a bit of a shock. The technology is quite mind-blowing, I think. So especially for an old guy.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. It absolutely is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Out of all of your work that you've done, do you have a favorite piece of your own?
I do. I have more than one. There's one in particular. I don't think I could go and get it for you. There's a few little paintings I've done which I really kind of look at and think, I was on form that day. I did good. I did a little seascape painting that I really kind of liked, which I'd like to repeat. And I've done some acrylic work on steam trains that is kind of fun. But again, it's a bit different to what I normally teach, but maybe one day I'll let the world see those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Do you have advice for anybody who's just getting started with painting?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of great advice out there, but I would say don't get overawed by it. The one thing I liked about Bob is that he just boiled it down to 13 colors, and with those 13 colors you should be able to do everything. Learn those 13 colors, learn the parameters, learn everything about 13 colors. Once you have all of those colors done, then buy tube 14. And I think the biggest advice is don't just walk into an art shop blind and start picking paint and brushes, because you'll fill up a cart full of paint and brushes that don't work together, aren't a good fit, and you'll end up disappointed. So I'd say keep it simple, keep it tight, learn the basics, get the foundations right before you go off and then start experimenting with other stuff. So that would be my big top tip. Keep it simple, keep it doable. Start with 2 or 3 colors, 4 colors maybe. In fact, I did one of my first videos I ever did was how to paint with 5 colors, and one of them was white. So in theory, it's actually only 4 colors and white. And I did a whole series of videos about how to paint landscapes and still life just using those colors. They were water mixable oils. So if you could just get those colors and a couple of basic brushes, you could paint some great stuff. And that's why I would say don't go buying big, expensive piles of kit until you really master it.
Yeah. Save your money.
yeah, you can waste a lot.
Yeah. What about your work makes you proud?
Watching other people improve. I get it's an ego trip for me to watch somebody else improve. If I can take one person who's struggling and kind of launch them off, give them a little bit of a springboard to get them going, or to take somebody who's really given up, who doesn't believe they can, and actually to teach them that they can do it. Watching other people succeed is that's the panacea for me. That's the joy of painting, is seeing other people doing well. So what I do is irrelevant. What they do is important.
Yeah. Yeah. We've made it to the point where I have these bonus questions that I like to ask people. So your first bonus question is, what is your favorite base when you're doing oil painting? A white canvas, a black canvas, or something in between?
Anything but white. I love black. I always paint on a tone canvas. I rarely paint on white. White is a killer. So always. In fact, you can see on that one there, that's a seascape. That's on grey. I rarely ever paint on white. So, yeah. Anything but white.
Yeah, because you have to do a lot more work when it's white.
That just kills it.
Yeah.
If you put white on white, you can't see it. You put white on grey, and it pops. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I like toned canvases, grey or a coloured one, definitely.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, what color do you think the average wet on wet oil painter overuses, and why?
Black. they I think it's just too much black. Maybe black and yellow, I think. I can't give one answer, but people put a lot of black into stuff. They kind of darken their mixtures down, and they shouldn't be, or they go the other extreme and they put too much highlight. They throw yellow at everything, and you got to get a balance between the two, I think. So
yeah.
There we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Bonus question number 3. How have you developed such great skills as a speaker and teacher for your videos?
Oh. I think it comes from years and years and years of standing in front of a room full of people. I think my earliest exposure to speaking to a room full of people was doing my very first art class, and I remember standing there kind of thinking, well, I thought to myself, well, if I go wrong, it doesn't really matter, because I'll just tell people I've gone wrong, and that will then make them happy. That'll make them feel more comfortable. So I think letting people know early on that you're not perfect makes the big difference. So that, I think, does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just being human. Mm-hmm. Just being human, and not to be afraid. And if you go wrong, tell them you meant to, because that way, if you cover your mistakes, they say that was a deliberate mistake, so you don't do it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Improvising.
Absolutely. Think on your feet.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have any more questions for you. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
I think that people should maybe take art more seriously. Sometimes I think we tend to put a lot of other pressures on ourselves, social media, and there's a whole raft of stuff. I think it's just kind of taking our eye off the ball somewhat. People should remember the very first language that they will ever use, the very first language for a sighted person, is an image. And art is the thing that's the first communication, before words, before anything else. Art's everything. So that's my little piece to the world. Art is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Can you tell us specifically where we can find you if we want to look for you?
Sure. The best place to find me is on my YouTube channel, which is Paul Ranson Art. I know that you might drop a link in the description down below. I got a website as well, though that's a little bit under construction right now. But yeah, that's paulandterry.co.uk, and that's here in the UK. But yeah, Paul Ranson Art, that's the place to find what I'm up to. And this weekend, that hopefully will be my next tutorial.
Awesome. I will definitely put a link in the description so everybody can find it.
Thank you, Gabi. That's really kind.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Paul.
No worries.
Behind the scenes, you guys don't know, but we are 6 hours apart, and so we had to figure that out. So he originally said, let's do morning, and I said, okay, what time zone are you in? And then I was like, nope, we're not doing morning.
Oh, come on, Gabi, be adventurous. Terry said to me, my other half, she said, where is Gabi? And I said, I'm sure she's in the UK somewhere. She sounds fairly English. I said, she must be in the UK somewhere. And I listened to you again, I thought, so you are no way you're English. Whereabouts in America are you based? Must be on the East Coast.
Nope, I am smack dab in the middle in the cold north. I live in Minnesota, so.
Oh, Minnesota, right,
Yes.
right, yeah. It's cold up there today, isn't it?
We've actually had one of the warmest winters that we've had in a long time. But usually this time of year, we're talking, I mean, if you're talking centigrade, we're talking 20 degrees below.
That's chilly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
chilly.
very, very cold.
We don't get anything like that. Well, so we don't. But global warming's coming along. You're right. I saw something about Canada having one of its warmest winters. That's just above you, really, isn't it? Canada's
Yes.
just above you, but
yeah,
I don't know. Global warming. It's
yeah,
a frightening thing, isn't it? So,
right. And then it's been freezing in Florida, so
yeah.
go figure.
Go figure. There we go. Everyone from Florida will be moving to Minnesota next year.
Oh boy, yeah. It's usually a one-way direction to Florida, and people are usually never coming back.
They call them snowbirds, don't they? They kind of fly
Snowbirds.
down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you so much for coming on. It's been an honor to get to interview you, to chat with you, and to pick your brain. It really is truly an honor. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Okay, guys, if you have any questions or comments, put it in the comment section of the video and we'll do our best to address them. Again, I'm Gabby and this is Paul. Thank you for coming on. And make sure that you guys go to his channel and subscribe and see what he does for work. He's very, very enjoyable to just sit and watch his work. So definitely do that. Make sure that you guys go to his channel and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I really do hope that you guys fall in love with painting just as much as we have. Bye, guys.